When someone genuinely feels unworthy of their partner, they work harder to become worthy. They communicate their insecurities and ask for help improving. They don't use their unworthiness as a reason to create distance. But when she says you deserve better, she's really preparing you for her departure while making herself look noble and selfless. "I'm letting you go for your own good" sounds much better than "I found someone I like more and I'm planning to leave you for them." The cruel irony is that this phrase often comes right after she's been comparing you to someone else, and you've come up short. She's been having emotional or physical connections with another person, and now she feels guilty. But instead of confessing or ending the other relationship, she's preparing to end yours while making it sound like a gift. Here's what's really happening in her psychology. She's found someone who makes her feel more valued, more interesting, more alive than you do. In her mind, this person is better for her, which means she deserves better than what she has with you. But she can't say that directly because it reveals her selfishness and betrayal. Watch the timing of this phrase carefully. It often comes after she's been distant, after unexplained absences, after those periods when she seems emotionally unavailable but can't explain why. She's been investing elsewhere and now feels like she needs to prepare you for the inevitable conclusion. The woman who genuinely feels unworthy but wants to stay will say things like, "I need to work on myself, but I want to do it with you," or "help me understand how to be better for us," or "I'm struggling with some personal issues. Can we talk about how to handle this together?" The woman who's already emotionally gone says you deserve someone better, and then goes quiet when you ask her to fight for the relationship. She doesn't want to work on being better for you because she's already focusing on being better for someone else. Here's the most painful aspect. She often says this right after the other person has made her feel incredibly special. She comes home from an interaction where someone made her feel like the most fascinating woman in the world, and suddenly you feel inadequate by comparison. But instead of recognizing this as the unfair comparison it is, she frames it as you deserving better. Notice how this phrase puts you in an impossible position. If you agree, you're accepting the end of the relationship. If you disagree and say you don't want anyone else, she can dismiss that as you settling or not knowing what's out there. Either way, she gets to maintain her moral superiority while ending the relationship. Phrase 6, "I need time to think about us." What she says, "I'm confused about my feelings." What it really means, she doesn't need time to think. The decision is already made. This phrase is psychological theater at its finest. She's not confused about her feelings. She's crystal clear about them. She's confused about her exit strategy. She's buying time to organize her departure or legitimize her new relationship. Here's what's really happening. She's already made the emotional decision to leave, but she needs practical time to arrange the logistics. Maybe she needs to secure living arrangements, or maybe she wants to make sure her new relationship is solid before burning this bridge completely. The thinking she needs to do isn't about whether she loves you or wants to work things out. It's about timing, logistics, and how to minimize the fallout. She's thinking about how to manage her family's reactions, how to divide friend groups, how to handle shared finances or living arrangements. Watch for these signs during her thinking period. She becomes emotionally unavailable, but doesn't seem distressed about the relationship uncertainty. Most people who are genuinely conflicted about their relationship are visibly struggling with the decision. They're sad, anxious, seeking advice, wanting to talk through their feelings. But she just disappears emotionally. She makes unilateral decisions about her schedule without consulting you. She stops initiating physical or emotional intimacy, but doesn't seem bothered by the distance. She's not tortured by the uncertainty because there is no uncertainty. The woman who genuinely needs to think about the relationship is actively engaged in that thinking. She asks questions like, "What do you think went wrong between us?" Or, "Do you think we can fix this?" Or, "What would need to change for this to work?" She seeks counseling, wants to talk through problems, suggests trial separations with specific goals. The woman who's already decided but needs time to execute her plan just says she needs time and then becomes a ghost in your own relationship. She's not thinking about you and her, she's thinking about logistics and timing. Here's the cruelest part. During this thinking time, she's often spending emotional energy on someone else. While you're giving her space to figure out your relationship, she's using that space to develop her other relationship. You think you're being patient and supportive while she sorts through her feelings, but you're actually giving her time to prepare your replacement. Phrase 7, we want different things. What she says, we have different life goals. What it really means, she wants the same things, but with a different person. This phrase is particularly manipulative because it sounds so logical and mature. Who can argue with incompatible life goals? It's clean, it's nobody's fault. It's just one of those things. But here's the psychology. Her goals haven't changed. Her vision of who she wants to achieve them with has changed. Think about it logically. If she wanted kids before and suddenly doesn't, if she wanted marriage before and suddenly values independence, if she wanted to travel together but now needs to explore alone, what changed? Did she have some profound personal revelation, or did someone else offer her a different vision of these same goals? The truth is, most of the time, when women say, we want different things, they mean, I want these same things with someone else. The someone who's been showing her a different way to achieve her dreams. The someone who makes her current relationship feel limiting rather than supporting. Here's how to tell the difference. The woman with genuinely changed goals can explain her evolution. She can tell you when and why her priorities shifted. She's sad about the incompatibility, but clear about her new direction. She might say something like, I've realized I need to live abroad for a few years before I settle down, or I've decided I want to focus on my career instead of starting a family right now. The woman who's using this as an excuse for someone else gets vague when pressed for details. She can't really explain why she suddenly values things she never cared about before, or why goals you've been working toward together suddenly feel impossible with you specifically. Watch for these contradictions. She says she wants to be more social, but only without you. She says she wants to be more adventurous, but rejects your suggestions for adventures together. She says she wants someone more ambitious, but criticizes your career efforts. She says she wants someone more romantic, but finds your romantic gestures annoying. The most telling sign, her different things always seem to align perfectly with what some other specific person offers. She suddenly values artistic creativity after meeting that musician. She suddenly prioritizes fitness after joining that gym where the trainer pays her special attention. She suddenly wants someone more intellectual after starting that book club where the professor finds her insights fascinating. Here's the psychological truth. We don't usually discover new desires in isolation. We discover them through other people who embody those qualities. The problem isn't that she's evolved, it's that she's using her evolution as justification for pursuing someone else instead of communicating with you about growing together. Phrase 8. I feel so guilty, 12:30 to 1400. What she says, I'm a terrible girlfriend, I don't deserve you. What it really means, she does feel guilty for what she's already done. When someone says they feel guilty without explaining why, they're usually confessing without confessing. She's experiencing genuine guilt, but she's not telling you the source of it. And that should terrify you. This phrase often comes out of nowhere during normal conversations. You're watching TV together, and suddenly she's overwhelmed with guilt about being a bad partner. You're having dinner, and she starts talking about how she doesn't deserve you. But when you ask what she means, she gets vague and uncomfortable. I just feel like I'm not good enough. Or, I feel like I'm letting you down. Or, I feel like you'd be happier with someone else. But she can't or won't specify what she's actually feeling guilty about. Here's the psychology. Guilt is specific. When people feel guilty about identifiable actions or thoughts, they can usually articulate why. I feel bad that I snapped at you yesterday, or I feel guilty that I forgot your birthday, or I feel bad that I've been so stressed about work and taking it out on you. But when someone feels guilty about secret actions or emotional betrayals, they express it in general terms because they can't confess the specific actions without revealing their betrayal. She feels guilty because she's been texting someone else inappropriately. She feels guilty because she's been meeting up with someone and lying about it. She feels guilty because she's been having emotional connections that cross boundaries. She feels guilty because she's been comparing you unfavorably to someone else. She feels guilty because she's been planning her exit from your relationship while still accepting your love and support. Pay attention to when these guilt episodes happen. Often they occur right after she's been with the other person, or right after she's crossed a new boundary in that relationship. She comes home from a lunch that turned too personal, from a text conversation that got too intimate, from an interaction where she realized she was falling for someone else. She feels awful about what she's doing, but instead of coming clean and stopping the behavior, she just expresses vague guilt and hopes it will relieve some of the psychological pressure. It's like a pressure valve. She releases just enough guilt to keep functioning without actually addressing the source. The woman feeling guilty about legitimate relationship issues will say things like, "I'm sorry I've been so stressed about work and taking it out on you," or "I feel bad that we haven't been spending enough quality time together," or "I feel guilty that I forgot to tell you about my plans this weekend." She identifies the problem and works towards solutions. The woman feeling guilty about betrayal just says she feels guilty and then gets uncomfortable when you try to help her identify why. She doesn't want solutions because that would require stopping the behavior that's causing the guilt. Phrase 9, "We're going out with the girls." What she says, "We need girls' time, you understand." What it really means, she's using her friends as alibis for meetings with someone else. Here it is. The phrase 87% of women use in the weeks before cheating. And here's why it's so devastatingly effective. It sounds completely innocent and reasonable. What partner is going to object to girls' night out? What boyfriend wants to be seen as controlling or possessive? But here's what to watch for: the sudden increase in girls' nights after months or years of normal social patterns. If she used to have girls' night once a month and suddenly needs it twice a week, something has changed. If she used to include you in some group activities and now everything is girls only, pay attention. The psychology behind using friends as cover is brilliant from a manipulation standpoint. She gets to maintain her innocent image while creating opportunities to be with someone else. And if you question it, you're the controlling boyfriend who doesn't trust her friendships. It's the perfect crime. But here's how to spot the difference between genuine girls' nights and alibi nights. Real girls' nights have consistent logical details. She can tell you where they're going, who will be there, approximately when she'll be home. She doesn't get defensive when you ask casual questions about how it went. She might even share funny stories about what happened, show you pictures from the evening, or mention things her friends said. She includes you in the aftermath because she has nothing to hide. Alibi nights have shifting details that don't quite make sense. The plan changes multiple times throughout the day. She can't give you straight answers about who else will be there or exactly where they're going. "We're just going to figure it out when we get there" becomes a common phrase. She doesn't answer her phone during the evening, claiming she didn't hear it over the music or conversation. But when she comes home, she's either overly detailed about boring activities, "We spent 2 hours talking about Sarah's job drama," or completely vague about the entire evening. "It was fine, just the usual girl talk." Watch her friends' behavior too. If they're helping her cover for someone else, they'll either overcompensate by being extra friendly to you, guilt, or they'll avoid you entirely, discomfort with the deception. You might notice awkward silences when you ask about their recent girls' nights, or conflicting stories about what they did. The most telling sign, she starts needing girls' time right when she's been emotionally distant from you. She's not bonding with her friends, she's using them as cover for bonding with someone else. The timing correlation between increased girls' nights and decreased intimacy with you is not a coincidence. Here's what's often really happening. She meets the other person at these supposedly all-female gatherings. Maybe he's a friend of a friend who joins the group. Maybe she tells her friends she's going with them, but actually meets him separately. Maybe there really is a girls' event, but she leaves early to meet him privately. The cruelest part is that she might even bring home details from the actual girls' portion of the evening to make her story more believable. She really did see her friends for an hour, so when she talks about their conversation, she's technically telling the truth, but she's omitting the 3 hours she spent with someone else afterward. Phrase 10, it's not you, it's me. What she says, the problem is with me, not with you. What it really means, the problem is exactly with you, but she doesn't want to explain why. This is the oldest lie in the relationship book, but it persists because it's designed to sound kind and selfless. She's trying to let you down easy by taking the blame. But here's the psychological reality. If the problem was really with her, she'd be working to fix it. When someone genuinely believes they're the problem in a relationship, they seek therapy, they communicate about their issues, they ask for patience while they work on themselves. They don't just announce that they're the problem and then start planning their exit. But when she says, it's not you, it's me, she's really saying, it's definitely you, but I don't want to have that conversation. Maybe you're not ambitious enough, not exciting enough, not tall enough, not wealthy enough, not emotionally available enough, not adventurous enough. Maybe you're simply not the other person she's been comparing you to for weeks or months. The cruelest part of this phrase is that it's designed to make you feel better while giving you absolutely no information to work with. You can't fix it's me because she won't tell you what it actually is. You can't improve or change because she's not identifying any specific issues. This phrase is the ultimate relationship exit strategy because it's supposedly noble and selfless. She's falling on her sword to protect your feelings, sacrificing herself for your well-being. But in reality, she's protecting herself from having to justify her decision or face your attempts to address specific issues. Here's how you know the difference between genuine self-awareness and manipulation. The person who genuinely believes they're the problem says things like, I have trust issues from my past relationship, and I need to work on them in therapy, or I get too anxious about commitment, and I want to understand why, or I realize I shut down emotionally when we fight and I need to learn better communication skills. They identify specific problems and create plans to address them. They ask for your support in their growth. They want to become better partners, not former partners. The person using this as an exit line just says, it's me, and then starts detaching. They don't want to work on anything because the problem isn't really with them. It's with their feelings for you, and feelings can't be fixed through effort or therapy. Here's the most painful truth. When she says, it's not you, it's me, she's often protecting the real reason she's leaving. Maybe she's found someone else who makes her feel things you haven't made her feel in months. Maybe she's tired of pretending to be attracted to you. Maybe she's realized she settled when she chose you, and now she wants to explore other options. But she can't say any of that without sounding shallow, cruel, or admitting to emotional cheating. So she takes the blame in the vaguest possible way, allowing you to maintain your dignity while she maintains her image as the thoughtful, caring person who just wasn't ready for love. The timing of this phrase is crucial. It usually comes after all the other phrases have failed to create enough distance for her to exit comfortably. She's tried to get you to break up with her through emotional unavailability, criticism, and creating problems. But you've hung in there, trying to work things out. So finally, she deploys the nuclear option. It's not you, it's me. It's designed to be argument-proof. How do you fight someone who's supposedly sacrificing their happiness for yours? How do you convince someone to stay when they're claiming they're not good enough for you? You can't, and that's exactly the point. But here's what you need to understand. These phrases aren't a death sentence. They're information. They're your chance to act before it's too late, before you waste more months or years of your life on someone who's already emotionally checked out. The women who don't use these manipulative phrases don't feel attacked by this video. They feel sad that some women behave this way. But the women who recognize their own tactics, they get defensive and angry because they've been called out. The hardest truth is this. By the time you're hearing these phrases regularly, the emotional affair has usually already begun. She's not preparing to cheat. She's preparing to make physical what's already been emotional for weeks or months. But knowledge is power. When you recognize these patterns, you can make informed decisions about your life, your energy, and your future. You can choose to address it directly with her. You can choose to investigate further and gather more evidence. Or you can choose to walk away with your dignity intact. What you can't do anymore is pretend you don't see what's happening. What you can't do is make excuses for behavior that your gut is telling you is wrong. What you can't do is continue investing in someone who's already started investing elsewhere. Your intuition has been trying to protect you. Those uncomfortable feelings, that gut instinct that something is off, that nagging sense that she's different. Trust it. It's not paranoia. It's not insecurity. It's your subconscious mind processing hundreds of micro-signals that something has fundamentally changed. If this video saved even one man from the pain of betrayal, I've accomplished my goal. Hit that like button if you value honesty over comfort. Subscribe to this channel because in my next video, I'll tell you exactly how to respond to each of these phrases, how to not show that you figured it out, and how to gather additional evidence before making your move. The truth is, most women don't wake up one day and decide to cheat. It's a process, a slow emotional disconnect followed by a gradual connection with someone else. And during that process, they say exactly these phrases. Take care of yourselves, men, and remember, it's better to know the truth and be free than to live in a beautiful lie. I'll see you in the next video. And don't forget, hit that notification bell because the follow-up to this video is going to show you exactly what to do next. You're stronger than you know, and you deserve better than settling for someone who's already emotionally checked out. Trust your instincts, protect your peace, and never let anyone make you feel crazy for noticing what's right in front of you. A woman who cheats never does it silently. She always leaves traces. Not in her phone, not in her behavior, but in her words. In those seemingly innocent phrases that carry the truth you don't want to hear. I'm going to tell you about 10 phrases we say when we've already emotionally checked out. These words aren't accidents. They're subconscious confessions. They're the breadcrumbs leading to betrayal, scattered right in front of you, waiting for you to follow them. The problem is, most men are too trusting, too hopeful, too afraid to see what's right there. You make excuses. You rationalize. You tell yourself stories about stress, work pressure, family drama, anything except the obvious truth staring you in the face. But before we begin, hit that like button if you're ready to hear the truth, subscribe to this channel so you never miss content that could change your life, and turn on those notifications. And if you're watching this from New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, Houston, Phoenix, or anywhere else, drop your city in the comments. I'm curious to see how many men across the country are ready to face reality. And here's the thing. You must, and I mean must watch until phrase number 9. Because that's where I'll reveal the phrase that 87% of women say right before they cheat. This phrase is so common you've probably heard it, but you never understood its true meaning. It's the phrase that predicts infidelity with terrifying accuracy. So stick around, because phrase 9 will completely change how you interpret women's words forever. Trust me, the men who ignore phrase 9 are the ones who get blindsided by betrayal. Phrase 1, I need space to grow. What she says, I just want to develop as a person. I need time for myself. What it really means, she's already emotionally investing in someone else. Let me break down the psychology here, because this phrase is loaded with manipulation that most men completely miss. When a woman is happy in a relationship, she grows with her partner. She includes you in her journey. She talks about our future and what we should do next. Her growth involves you because you're part of her world. But the phrase, I need space to grow, is a veiled way of saying I'm outgrowing you, or I found someone who seems more suitable for my future. Here's what's really happening in her mind. She's comparing you to someone else, and you're losing. She's not growing away from relationships. She's growing towards someone specific. That growth she's talking about, it's happening in text messages you're not seeing. in conversations you're not part of, in emotional connections that exclude you entirely. She's building a new version of herself that doesn't include you, but she can't say that directly because it sounds cruel. The red flags to watch for. She can't explain what specifically is preventing her from growing in your relationship. When you ask, what kind of growth? Or, how can I support that? She gets vague and irritated. She avoids conversations about your shared future, suddenly uncertain about plans you've been making together for months. She started attending new places or events without you, claiming she needs to find herself. But here's the truth. She's not finding herself. She's finding someone else. That pottery class, that hiking group, that book club. They all have one thing in common: a specific person who's making her question everything about her current life. This phrase puts you in an impossible position. If you support her growth, you're giving her permission to distance herself from you. If you oppose it, you're labeled as controlling and unsupportive. It's designed to make you the villain no matter how you respond. What innocent growth looks like: I want us to travel more together, or let's take that cooking class as a couple, or I think we should both start working out. She includes you in her vision of improvement. What guilty growth looks like: I need to do this alone, or you wouldn't understand, or this is just for me. She excludes you from activities that could easily include both of you. This phrase often comes right after she's met someone new who embodies qualities she claims to want to develop. She meets an artist and suddenly needs creative space. She meets a fitness enthusiast and suddenly needs to focus on health alone. Growth isn't genuine self-improvement, it's attraction disguised as personal development. When a woman truly wants to grow, she invites her partner into that growth. When she's using growth as an excuse to create distance, she needs to do it alone, which really means with someone else. Phrase 2, you're being too jealous, suspicious. What she says, you're paranoid, you have trust issues. What it really means, classic gaslighting technique. She's flipping the script. This is psychological manipulation 101, and it's devastatingly effective because it makes you question your own sanity. A guilty conscience makes someone defensive even when no one's attacking. If she's calling you jealous for asking normal questions, she's projecting her guilt onto you. Here's how it typically unfolds. You ask an innocent question like, "How was work today?" And she responds with, "God, are you interrogating me again?" Or you notice she's been on her phone more, and she snaps back with, "You're so controlling and insecure. I can't even check my messages without you getting paranoid." But think about this logically. If she had nothing to hide, why would normal curiosity about her day trigger such an aggressive response? When someone innocent is asked about their activities, they share openly because they have nothing to conceal. They might even be excited to tell you about their day. The manipulation tactics she uses: reversal. She turns your legitimate concerns into character flaws. Your intuition becomes paranoia. Your normal relationship expectations become controlling behavior. Historical rewriting. She'll claim you've always been jealous, even if this behavior is new. She's creating a false narrative where your current suspicions are part of a pattern, not a response to her changed behavior. Victimization. She positions herself as the victim of your unreasonable demands. I can't even have friends without you getting weird about it. But she's not talking about normal friendships. She's talking about relationships that cross boundaries. Deflection. Instead of addressing your specific concerns, she attacks your right to have concerns at all. She never explains the behavior that triggered your suspicion. She just attacks you for noticing it. She's taking your natural intuition, which is probably picking up on real changes in her behavior, and weaponizing it against you. She's making you the problem for noticing that she's acting differently. This phrase serves multiple purposes. First, it shuts down your questions immediately. You learn to stop asking because you don't want to be labeled as controlling or insecure. Second, it makes you doubt your own perceptions. You start thinking, maybe I am being too suspicious, or maybe I do have trust issues. What innocent responses look like. Work was busy, had 3 meetings, and grabbed lunch with Jessica from accounting. Oh, and did I tell you about the drama with the new project manager? They share details because they have nothing to hide. What guilty responses look like. Why do you always need to know everything? Can't I have any privacy? You're being so clingy and suspicious lately. This is exactly why I need space. This phrase often appears right after she's crossed a new boundary with someone else. She comes home from an interaction that went too far emotionally, and she's feeling guilty. When you ask normal questions, her guilt makes her defensive and angry. The escalation technique. She'll often follow this phrase with ultimatums. If you can't trust me, maybe we shouldn't be together. She's using your desire to preserve the relationship to shut down your legitimate concerns. But here's what's really happening. Your subconscious mind is picking up on hundreds of micro changes in her behavior. The way she holds her phone differently, the slight delay before she responds to simple questions, the new phrases she's started using, the changes in her routine that don't quite add up. Your brain is processing all this information and sending you warning signs. Don't close this video, because the next 3 phrases will show you exactly how she prepares the ground for betrayal. And in phrase number 7, I'll tell you the exact words she uses when she's already seeing someone else but hasn't made it physical yet. These next phrases are the ones that reveal she's not just thinking about cheating, she's actively creating the conditions for it. Trust me, you need to hear this. Phrase 3, we've become like brother and sister. What she says, we don't have that spark anymore, we're more like friends. What it really means, she's comparing you to someone else and you're losing. This phrase is particularly cruel because it sounds like a relationship issue that could be worked on together. But here's the psychological reality. Women don't lose attraction randomly. This phrase means she's feeling passion, just not with you. When a woman says you feel like siblings, she's creating emotional justification for seeking that spark elsewhere. She's rewriting your relationship history to make you the safe, boring option while someone else becomes the exciting, passionate choice. Here's what's happening in her mind. She's already identified what that missing spark looks like, and it has a name and a face. The passion didn't disappear, it redirected. She's not looking for spark in general. She's found it specifically with someone else. Think about the timing. If she's saying this after months or years of normal intimacy, something triggered this realization. Someone showed her what she was missing. Someone made her feel that electricity she used to feel with you, but now associates with them. She's not just comparing your current relationship to your past together. She's comparing it to her present feelings for someone else. You can't compete with the excitement of a new emotional connection because you're being measured against the honeymoon phase of her feelings for another person. She'll often say it right after spending time with the person who's providing that missing spark. She comes home from work, from a night out, from a friend's event, and suddenly your relationship feels brotherly to her. The timing isn't coincidental. It's directly connected to her emotional state after being with someone who makes her feel differently. She'll start pointing to past moments and reinterpreting them. We never really had that crazy passion, or I think we've always been more like best friends. But if you think back honestly, this narrative doesn't match your actual history together. She's retroactively changing the story to justify her current feelings. Watch how she responds to your touch. She suddenly finds your physical affection awkward or annoying. She stops initiating any kind of intimacy and barely tolerates yours. She might say things like, "It just feels weird now," or "It doesn't feel natural anymore." Here's how to spot the difference. The woman who genuinely feels like the passion has faded will want to work on rebuilding it together. She'll suggest date nights, new activities, couples therapy, ways to reconnect. She'll say things like, "I miss how we used to be," or "Let's plan something romantic." The woman who's already redirected her passion elsewhere just wants you to accept this new dynamic while she explores her feelings for someone else. She'll resist your attempts to rekindle romance, claiming it feels forced or artificial. She doesn't want to rebuild passion with you because she's already building it with someone else. She stops laughing at your jokes the way she used to. She doesn't seek your comfort when she's upset. She doesn't share exciting news with you first. She's essentially treating you like a roommate while giving her emotional energy to someone else. Listen for subtle comparisons. Sarah and Mike seem so passionate, or I saw this couple at dinner and they just seemed so into each other. She's not making innocent observations. She's highlighting what she feels is missing with you while thinking about someone who does provide those feelings. Phrase 4, he's just a friend, you don't know him. What she says, it's my new co-worker classmate, we just talk about work stuff. What it really means, she's introducing someone new into her life while immediately creating distance between you and them. This phrase is loaded with psychological manipulation that most men completely miss. When a woman is happy in her relationship, she wants to introduce you to all the important people in her life. She's excited to merge her worlds because she's proud of both you and her friendships. But the phrase, you don't know him, is creating a secret zone where you're not allowed. She's compartmentalizing her life into two areas, the part that includes you and the part that doesn't. And guess which part is getting more of her emotional energy? Here's how this typically develops. She starts mentioning a new name frequently, much more than necessary for casual acquaintances. She talks about his opinions on movies, his funny stories from college, his problems with his roommate, his thoughts on her career decisions. She knows details about his life that go far beyond professional interaction. Pay attention to the emotional investment in her voice when she talks about him. There's an energy, an excitement that wasn't there before. She lights up when his name comes up in conversation, then catches herself and tries to downplay it. When you suggest meeting him or joining them for group activities, suddenly there are carefully constructed reasons why that's not possible or necessary. He's really shy around new people, or it's just work stuff, you'd be bored, or we usually just grab quick coffee between meetings. But notice how these excuses don't actually make logical sense. If he's shy, why would meeting her boyfriend be particularly threatening? If it's just work stuff, why can't you join for a casual drink after their work discussion? The excuses reveal that she's protecting this relationship from your scrutiny. Watch for these red flags. She mentions his name more often than she needs to, sometimes catching herself mid-sentence and looking embarrassed. She starts using phrases or opinions that don't sound like her. She's unconsciously adopting his perspectives. She becomes defensive if you ask questions about him, turning your natural curiosity into an attack on her autonomy. Why are you so interested in my work friends? Or, you don't need to know about every person I interact with. The psychology here is fascinating and calculating. She's creating a relationship that exists in parallel to yours. She's emotionally investing in someone while keeping him completely separated from your shared life. This isn't about friendship. It's about maintaining two separate emotional worlds. Here's the most telling sign. She starts defending him before you even criticize him. You might just mention that she talks about him a lot, and she immediately jumps to, he's just a friend, why are you being so jealous? This defensive response reveals that she's already feeling guilty about the emotional intimacy she's sharing with him. Initially, their interactions might genuinely be professional or casual. But emotional affairs don't start with physical attraction. They start with emotional connection. She begins sharing personal problems with him, seeking his advice about things unrelated to work, finding excuses to extend their time together. She starts comparing you unfavorably to him, often without even realizing it. He's so easy to talk to, or he really understands my perspective on this, or he's going through something similar. These seemingly innocent comments reveal that she's finding emotional fulfillment with him that she's not getting from you. The innocent woman with a new friend will naturally want to include that friend in her broader social circle. She'll suggest group activities, casual introductions, maybe even double dates if the friend has a partner. She's transparent about the friendship because she has nothing to hide. The woman creating an emotional affair keeps that relationship in a separate compartment. She protects it from outside scrutiny, because she knows that if you saw the dynamic between them, you'd recognize it for what it really is. The beginning stages of an emotional and potentially physical affair. Notice how much mental and emotional space this friend occupies in her life. She thinks about conversations with him, looks forward to seeing him, processes her day through what she'll tell him about it. That's emotional energy that used to be directed toward you, now redirected toward someone else. Phrase 5, you deserve better than me. What she says, you're good, but what it really means, she's already found someone she considers better for herself. This phrase sounds like self-deprecation, but it's actually projection with a cruel twist. She's not thinking about what you deserve better than. She's thinking about what she deserves better than. And in her mind, that's you. Here's the psychological reality.